Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're the hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every day, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can view all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues that affect you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
It's on. We're calling our meeting to order of the Parks Commission, December 5th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Our first item of business is the approval of minutes for November, and there is a citizen who wishes to comment, Patrick Cheney, 5211 Kitty Crest.
Okay, this has the Zoom people, but that has the display, so.
You can see the agenda?
Yeah.
You need to see the actual
Okay.
minutes the way they are there? Okay.
And could you go a couple pages ahead into the minutes? Wait a
So
minute.
are you 5B, 6A? Is that the
Go
question?
one page further.
There's a statement in 5B and 6A that are mixed up. So if you go to the next page.
This does look somewhat mixed up.
Okay. While they're working on that,
Okay.
tell
Scott?
me if this is what you were.
Okay, from memory.
Go ahead.
I want to offer a correction edit to the minutes related to something including that I registered for in 5B, as I remember, because I can't see it. There are two, there we go. Yeah, down a bit more. Stop, okay. Under 6A, Southdale Park Plan updates, there are 3 paragraphs. The second paragraph for Don Stiegert and Steve Arnold, and then the next paragraph for Patrick Cheney do not belong to Southdale, but they belong onto the previous. Go up a little bit, Scott.
Sue actually called my attention to this. Under 5B?
That one, 5B, yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, and Sue actually emailed that to me, so we got it for you, PC.
We're doubly sure.
Yep.
All right. So now a motion to approve the minutes as amended. Motion
So
to
moved.
approve. Mr. Herbst is
Second.
the motion, and Heidi Reynolds has the second.
Heidi, okay.
Those in favor of the minutes for November as amended, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our minutes are amended. Public appearances for non-agenda items, we do not have any of those. A review and approve our agenda, a motion to approve.
I'll move.
That's Chris Sina, and second?
Second.
Sarah Schroeder. Any discussion? Leave it as it is? Okay. Those in favor of the agenda as written, say aye.
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 None opposed, so our agenda remains the same. 5A, our action items, 5A is Resolution R-189-24, granting an underground electric easement on Lot 1 in CSM 51479 Springs Golf Course. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
That's Alder Herbst. A second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Any discussion? Or Scott, go ahead and tell us what we need to know.
And this is a electrical easement. As I'm understanding, MG&E is looking to improve the service in the area. And one of the things that they need to do is they need to get an easement in order to do these improvements. And what I did include in your information is a drawing of phase 1 and phase 2 of the hub, and actually the easement is right in this area down here. So it wouldn't conflict with any potential future phase 2 of the hub. And actually, as it reads, there would be no above ground improvements, it would be all underground improvements. And certainly Dave might be a little bit more versed and be able to add. This is kind of a public works kind of item, but with it being in the area of the hub, they wanted us to make sure that the Park Commission was aware of it.
Yeah, it's a little more than just supplying the hub. It's a neighborhood or area reliability improvement by MG&E so that they have redundant. They lose the feed one way, they have another way to feed it. So it's enhancement to electric supply in the neighborhood.
And the Board of Public Works already looked all this over and approved it?
We approved it, yes.
All right. Any Parks Commissioners have any questions? Okay, ready to vote? Those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Okay, we are at 5B, which is a public comment, public hearing regarding the Parks and Open Space Plan. We have a citizen who wishes to speak. I'm opening up the comment period. We do have 3 minutes, and Mr. Steve Arnold is here, 2530 Targhee Street, and representing Bike Fitchburg Incorporated.
Good evening, Commissioners and Brad. Back in March, I submitted a lot of detailed comments when this was moving at the time. It subsequently got stalled, but now it is back on the docket, and I am concerned. So I have 3 pages of comments, and some of them are minor typos that Brad will want to correct, and I've given a copy of my comments to Scott to return to Brad during business tomorrow. My main concern is that about 2 years ago, when we first tried to advance a resolution to designate our multi-use path system as the Fitchburg Greenway system, and those on the Park Commission at the time approved it, it failed to advance to the council because Aaron Richardson, mayor at that time, wanted it to appear first in this plan. And so 2 years later, we are at the plan, and in March 29th, it was among the changes I submitted to put it into the existing conditions that we have this network, the action items that we should name it the Fitchburg Greenway system and take these steps to inventory it, market it, provide wayfinding signage, and so on. So my first concern is that that was removed. And I ask you to put it back in. Brad has the language. There was a 2-page map of the north half of the city and all our greenways designated. There was a 1-page table that had all the proposed segments. There were action items to designate it and to undertake an effort to find gaps and mitigate them and substandard conditions. So that's my main request. Some smaller ones are that I put in an action item to, under number 3, to undertake safe routes to schools planning, since we have now 4 schools plus 2 on our border off Rimrock Road and Post Road, and that serve Fitchburg students. And the third item, no, that's, oh, and I put in under your standards, I said that you should, I asked that we add to the list to develop standards for multi-use paths, which is something we should have done a long time ago, just like we have standards for parks, and that was not incorporated into the draft you have before us. So the first one, the admission of the Fitchburg Greenway system, takes many forms. They're listed in the notes that I gave to Scott to give to Brad. And how am I doing on time?
Fine.
That's the crux of what I wanted to say. I will thank Brad for incorporating the Kyle Steger Greenway system into the plan. It was my theory that the resolution should come before the things being in the plan, and that kind of proves that. But since we waited 2 years, I'd like you to put this in the plan.
Okay, and then your second was the safe routes to school, and then the third was developing standards for multi-use paths.
Yes.
Okay.
Those are the 3 overarching bigger things. There are many smaller things.
Okay.
Any questions for me? Well, I appreciate the time to comment.
Thank you.
And Brad, if you're willing, I would be happy to meet with you and go over my sketchy notes so you understand what I'm talking about. And I would be very eager to learn why those changes weren't accepted. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. There is then Scott Endel was going to read an email from a citizen that is in the packet but wasn't put in there till, I think, today.
Yep.
And so it's there, and because we may discuss it later, reading it out loud for our viewership is what he was going to do. Go ahead.
Sue, before we move on to that
Yes.
topic, I wonder if I might just comment on
Sure.
on this one. It's been a long time, but once upon a time, I did do a little bit of research on the Safe Routes to School sort of program, and a lot of that is getting kids, providing routes, to get from A to B that aren't, so that there are alternative methods of transportation, and so that goal really ties into our what is a pretty robust path system and that Greenway goal, so they really go hand in hand. So I would support adding language to that to the Safe Routes to School, because at first blush you might think, how does that relate to the park system? Well, our path system can be a really important part of that whole program. So I would just say that I support that idea. And also, less important, but having recently been asked to add a multi-use path to a project where the city did not have any standards for the path, as the design professional in that situation, you're like, okay, well, what do you want? So that is also a good idea. It's something that the city should work to develop. So I support both of those ideas.
Okay, thanks. And we will have a separate, when we actually have our motion and second in the next section of the agenda, we can even talk about it more if others have thoughts to add. So Scott was going to read the email that came in, so anyone watching who doesn't have access to the packet right now knows what this next issue is.
Very, very good. So this was a statement from Michael Stevens, president of the Seminole Glen Homes Unit Owners Association in Fitchburg, and I did receive it after lunch today, so I did share with Michael that I shared it with the Park Commission and wanted to include it in the packet. In 2018-19 and again in 2021, I and other Fitchburg citizens appeared before the Park Commission to express concerns about the 2015-20 Park and Open Space Plan, as well as a new updated version. Our concern is every in every case dealt with language which continues to implicitly supports promoting the permanent, not special events, sale and consumption of alcohol in city parks by private for-profit entities. A bit of background, the language in the 2015-20 report was used by city staff to justify an effort by the city in 2018 to lease McKee Farms Park Shelter to a privately operated business that would sell beer nearly year-round for up to 55 hours per week. When staff was questioned at a public meeting, the language in the plan on beer gardens was quoted to justify the project. In response to this initiative, Fitchburg residents from every aldermanic district wrote and contacted their representatives. A majority of the council members told us that they were opposed to the project, and then Fitchburg mayor ordered it to be halted. The same language regarding beer gardens appeared in the first draft revision of the plan you are now considering. At a public hearing in 2021, several citizens testified against the language. The former city planner vociferously denied that there were plans for beer gardens and said so in communications to the then mayor in 2021. Now in 2024, we are seeing once again nearly the same language that was used to justify the beer garden in McKee carried over to the new draft plan. The draft points to a privately operated beer garden in Milwaukee as a model and urges seeking partnership for food and drink gardens, while a photograph of Milwaukee's Estabrook Park that appeared in the 2015-20 plan has been removed. Much of the language is the same. So then he lists some concerns. Number one, the city should not enter into competition with private sector tax-paying businesses. There is no shortage of private sector businesses in Fitchburg where one can gather, buy, and consume alcohol. Tax-supported assets should not underwrite competitors. Number two, the city should not turn over facilities that are funded by the taxpayers, which are currently open to Fitchburg citizens. Beer gardens will restrict access to some parts of their parks to private entities. And number three, the issue is not whether people can drink in the parks. Currently, it is permitted, and some special events sell beer. This process seems to work well. However, it's a different matter for city-owned resources to be used to promote and encourage alcohol sales and consumption. And then some suggestions on revisions. The objectionable language appears on pages 69 and 70, along with page 92 of the red line draft, and deals with public-private partnerships. Public-private partnerships are a good idea, and the section should be salvaged with some judicious edits. Number one, the first section, which strongly implies that these partnerships should be beer gardens with alcohol sales, could remove references to that concept. They could be accomplished leaving the first and third paragraphs and deleting the second paragraph, which describes a Milwaukee beer garden. In addition, the third paragraph could further clarify its intent by removing the words "and drink" from the following sentence. The city should explore food and drink opportunities that encourage social interaction at designated system properties, serving to expand the user profile of the system and attracting users from throughout the region. And then secondly, a second reference which specifically refers to the beer garden concept comes again in part 3 in 2A, page 92 of the red line draft, where it reads, continue to explore opportunities for food carts farmers markets, food, drink gardens, and other local drink opportunities in appropriate city or signature theme parks. Delete the phrase food, drink gardens. This would not prohibit exploring them, but they would more properly fall in the other local food, drink opportunities. The clear statements in the plan advocating for privately operated beer gardens are at the root of the contentiousness since 2018. I ask the Commission to remove some of the language.
Okay, thank you.
So it's in the record.
Correct. Thank you for reading that.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we can close the citizen comment section and move on then to 5C. 5C, which is Resolution R-208-24, approval of the Parks, Open Space, and Recreation Plan 2025 to 2030. Do we have a motion to approve? I'll move to approve it, and I'm going to add, I will say I move to approve what I just read, which is what is stated after item C, but add including any consensus changes made at this meeting. So that's my motion.
I'll second.
Okay, so that's seconded by Heidi Reynolds. Okay, so is there any additional discussion? We did talk a little bit about the remarks from Mr. Arnold. Anything anybody else wants to say there? Go ahead.
I agree with Steve, that we should have a design standard for the recreational path, but I don't believe it belongs in this document. It's part of our engineering standards.
Okay. All right, and I should have, had you make some comments, Scott, because I know you also said Brad could address some of these issues. So we can also reverse that, and if people have questions of Scott or Brad, they can do it that way too.
And I think Brad, in the memo that he provided to the Park Commission as part of the Park Commission packet, really did a good job. Certainly we received a lot of comments along the way, and we did, as staff, including the planning department and administration, took a hard look at all of these comments and recommendations, and I really did defer to the planning department because they are really the keepers of the planning documents within the city, and really provided that professional advice as far as which planning document these things should be included. It certainly isn't an exclusion of the information that we received. It was matter more of an idea of where it would be injected in the planning documents within the city. So I think that and can kind of be a summary of how staff came to the final vision or the final version of the plan. I know Brad did provide, and we can specifically take some of the comments that Mike provided and some thoughts that we have regarding those comments. If you're interested in hearing staff's thought of those comments at some time, we're certainly here to ask or answer any of those questions. But I would defer to Brad to see if he had any other introductory comments, if you would. But I think, as I mentioned, his memo did a nice job of summarizing all of the changes and reasons why potentially that they're included in the final version.
Okay. Yes, we'll have Brad speak. And I do see Heidi has a question, but if we let Brad first introduce whatever it is he'd like to tell us generally, and then if there is anything he wants to tell us about the specific citizen comments, that's great to have that on the record up front too.
Yeah, I don't have anything additional to add beyond the memo generally, but I can speak to a little bit of why the recommended draft came forward without the Greenway and the Safe Routes to School and the multi-use path standards in there. As Scott mentioned, this was we convened a staff working group to run through all of the comments we received, and pretty much by consensus, we decided which things to incorporate and address, and which things to leave out. And again, that was planning staff, parks and forestry staff, and administration that was part of that staff working group. So I think the biggest point, and this really applies to all three of them, we just did not think that the parks plan was the best place to address these. I'll note that there's already more actions in this plan than we could reasonably accomplish in 5 years, and it is a 5-year plan. And so we were trying to be judicious about the actions that we have in there. And as far as the Greenway, we thought that was better suited for the bike and ped plan, because it really, although it is related to the park system, it is kind of a joint. It's primarily a public works item with some park role in that, but it's a greenway system that goes throughout the whole city is more of a public works transportation thing. As far as the safe routes to school planning, it's kind of the same idea. The safe routes to school is really focused on getting kids transportation to and from school, safely. Again, parks can play a role in this, but it really isn't the transportation like that is not the primary purpose of a parks plan. And same as Dave's comment for the standards for multi-use paths. We really just thought that was better. An action item on that would be better considered in the bike ped plan. I think that's what I wanted to address as far as Steve's comments. And I think most of the edits on from the other comments that Scott read out, we're fine with those. I think there was one in the middle there that I think recommended removing the "and drink" from food and drink, and I think drink is general enough that it doesn't imply alcohol, and drink usually accompanies food, so I don't see a problem leaving that food and drink text in there, but the other edits we were okay with.
Developing standards for the multi-use path, is that found somewhere else within the city documentation outside of the parks plan?
That was something that we thought would be better addressed in the bike ped plan
as well. Okay, so all three items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Heidi, if you will please go ahead with your question or comment.
Well, I have two questions. One in relation to the resident speaker earlier. I agree with him that, government should never compete with private business. But as I'm looking through here and I see, providing food and drink opportunities on system properties, is that alluding to the fact that the city would underwrite that or promote that? Or is that just businesses that choose to rent shelters or, purchase a temporary liquor license, whatever the case may be, that they could do that? Or is it simply in opposition to the words beer garden?
Go ahead, Scott.
And then my second
go
question,
ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll just get both of them out of the way and then
Yeah.
I'll be quiet. So my second question here is, shoot, I'm sorry, I lost it. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just lost my second question. It'll come back to me.
Again, when it comes to you, I've got notes all over, and I'm sure I'm going to lose track of some of mine. Scott, go ahead.
Well, and I don't want to speak for Brad, but let me take a crack at it. That certainly I think the connotation where it specifically mentions beer gardens and those kinds of things, we wanted to remove them. But we still, drink certainly has different definitions, and we wanted to maintain, the food and drink. And certainly it would still allow some flexibility at some point in time if there was another proposal that would come before us. And certainly anything that would, I remember the process that we went through and the concern that was raised. So certainly it would be another public process that would be gone through and in order to do it. But we didn't want to, as Brad indicate, strike drink. There's a lot of concessions and drink opportunities that aren't, not alcoholic, that we didn't want to exclude that from the document.
Okay, and I was remembering back to when some of the citizens came to the meeting, 2021, it was, I think, and talked about this issue, and a couple of the things they recalled, and if I'm wrong, and you remember, please correct me, but when they got the survey regarding the proposal at McKee Farms Park, they were asked about food and drink, and, as they spoke with each other later, they go, yeah, we all said that's great. Well, they found out later drink meant alcohol sales, and they didn't know that. So if wording is staying in here, you can just say food service, and it's presumed you can order a soda with that or a glass of milk. If you want to leave in, which may include alcohol sales, but if you want it completely out, then just say food service, and you avoid the word drink and people wondering what it means.
And one of the edits that we so for example, with this continue to explore opportunities for food carts, farmers markets, food, drink, gardens, I think so what we did is we struck food, drink, gardens, and then struck other. So continue to explore opportunities for food, cart, farmers market, and other local food, drink opportunities. So it didn't, as I guess I just don't want to take the drink out of there because I don't think that's.
Well, it's fine to leave it in, but then we should be clear if we're going to leave the door open for alcohol sales, because that was the rub for people who answered a survey. And in fact, there's in the plan, there's still a statement. I've got it written down elsewhere down the line if we go through the plan page by page. But at the bottom of one page, it says there was the community survey or some such thing where, majority in support. Well, the people who came and spoke said, well, we were in support because we did not know that meant alcohol sales.
Right.
So we should, it's not that everyone's going to agree what happens down the road with a new proposal, but if we remove the confusion about it, we got a better chance of everyone being a little less caught by surprise. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I remember this discussion last time we updated this plan, and I think that it's important to reiterate that there are no plans existing for a beer garden or anything similar right now. But the point I made then and the point I'll make again now is that I don't think it's appropriate to hamstring us from any future developments that we might want to do, and I, for one, would like to leave that option open for alcohol sales at a city park in a potential beer garden, if that were to ever become in the realm of possibility somewhere, which it isn't now. But I like the idea of that still being an option. So I don't want to eliminate our guiding document or modify our guiding document in a way that makes that more difficult to happen in the future. So, of course, if that were to ever be proposed, it would have to go through its process. Residents and people in the neighborhood would make their voices heard. And, I will say that, when that happened during the McKee Farms proposal, which was before my time, but when that happened, the system worked, and the project didn't go through because the neighborhood was opposed to it. So I for one, don't see the problem. But I do want to keep it very clearly and intentionally as something that could happen down the road, because informally, surveying my neighborhood and my neighbors, they would react very differently if it were to be proposed in our neighborhood. And I could tell you we'd be enthusiastically in support of such a thing. Different places in the city might feel differently. So we need to keep this document relatively broad and open-ended, in my opinion.
So does that include, though, making it more clear along the lines to potentially include alcohol sales rather than just saying food, drink?
Why can't we put a temporary? I mean, I'm not sure what this guy was talking about, whether there was actually someone who was coming in permanently to create a private entity. Now, I'd be against that, but I agree with what you're saying. It should be left open, but maybe we put a time limit on it. You can only do it for N number of days, and that's it. It can't be something that you're going to go on into the summer or all throughout the year to sell against private entities. That part I would totally agree with. So if you limit it, say, yes, you can do it, but only for a weekend or some temporary period. That, the language that guy brought up made it sound like the city was actually entertaining bringing in a private party, which I don't think is what we were doing that.
That was why it was a problem. And it's at McKee Farms Park, which is quite large, and there are all those there are many or several temporary festivals year after year, and I don't think the people living there had an objection to that. This was a specific proposal, and it's dead, and there's nothing on the table now, but they just went through that process and want to see that if we don't put the exact same language in, that led to it going as far as it did before. And I'm not saying that's what I do or don't support. I'm just saying that's their view. So that's why it's very detailed in here. It was something, as you say, the system worked, but having been involved in just other things, citizen action in the city, it can be very frustrating to have to do something more than one time, to rally your neighbors, communicate with everybody, get everybody on board, show up, let everyone know what's happening. So I think they want to avoid having to go through quite as much work if this would ever come up in the future, a very similar project. So go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, I think Chris said it perfectly, though, just because I understand their frustration that was an experience that they didn't want to occur, but like Chris mentioned, it went through the process and it didn't happen. And so we can't be drafting language or policies or procedures based on one neighborhood's feedback when another neighborhood could feel completely different. And so I think that understand the frustration, but that's the reason why processes exist. And that's why these documents are kind of vaguely written, just because one thing that would be completely unsuccessful in one neighborhood could be welcomed with open arms in another.
Okay. And I see Heidi, additional comment?
Well, so my question is, so the opposition, if I'm understanding this right, is that the city is not the one selling the food or drink, but rather private entities should be doing that, which I agree with. My question is there a permit required for businesses or anybody to sell alcohol on the premises in our parks? I mean, I feel like that might be sort of and it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but I mean, liquor permits would presumably be public record. So if something's going on in your neighborhood, you might, if a permit's required to sell alcohol, that might be, a way for people to know what's going on in their neighborhood. The final thing I remembered, and I know this isn't about the beer garden, but it goes back just to the document as a whole. We had discussed several months ago about reevaluating the price per acre at which we currently sell park real estate, that we were woefully under underestimating the price per acre. And I'm wondering if that is addressed in here or if that's something that would be addressed in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Alder Herbst, what's your opinion on, I would like everyone to state their opinions so I understand where everyone's coming from.
Well, back to Heidi's comment, you
Yeah.
know, you do have to have an operator's license, or you can apply for temporary operator's licenses for these type of events, so if you want to dispense alcohol. I think I'm not opposed to, for events, being able to be sold. I don't. Again, I'm certainly against setting up a private entity that is going to be operating a business in our park doing that, but I'm not opposed to being able to have it in parks occasionally.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's a separate process because this is referring to for some entity, some business proposing, hey, we would like to run food and beverage service in XYZ park for the year. So that's what this is about. And I agree of not hamstringing future proposals and locations. The only thing, what I want to know is, in these words, in that section, could we not, instead of saying food and drink, or we could say just food service, which implies when you order food, you can order a beverage, and then a qualifying or additional statement which could potentially include alcohol sales. Does that help anybody in the scenario that's concerned from the public? I guess whatever it is we do or don't do, I imagine there'll be follow through by anybody who's unhappy about it with the council. So if the recommendation is to do absolutely nothing and leave everything just the way it is, and then now that we've all spoken, Brad, is there anything else you would like to say to shed light on this topic?
Not that I can think of at this time. Again, I think we thought it was fine to remove the references to the Estabrook Park in Milwaukee, and change some of the language. But I guess I'd be following yours and Scott's direction on this. So
yeah, well, to me, Estabrook Park is quite a bit larger than anything we have. So it's nice that they have one there, but we don't have to reference it in this plan to make our case, right? Oh, so you're saying that's out. So Scott, then I'm lost. What's in, what's out as far as this memo?
Well, if I could, I've actually got to Heidi's question about parkland dedication fees. That's already included as one of our item C, evaluate parkland dedication fee in lieu of that. That's one of our action items, Heidi.
Okay.
I've got it on okay?
Yeah.
And then getting back to I can go through the memo and share what staff, in working with Brad, what our thoughts were.
Okay.
So the first page is, just kind of information, right? So under concerns, under this one here, this could be accomplished by leaving the first and third paragraph and deleting the second paragraph, so that we can do that. So that reference to the Milwaukee Beer Garden, so we can take that out of there.
All right.
The other one is, this idea of eliminating drink. We feel that is general enough and doesn't necessarily mean alcohol, that should remain in there. And I did mention here, what we would do is we would strike food, drink gardens. We would accept it, but strike food, drink gardens and other, and then leave the rest. So farmers markets, so it would read, continue to explore opportunities for food carts, farmers markets, and local food, drink opportunities in appropriate city signature theme parks.
Okay.
And then, delete the phrase food, drink gardens, which that makes sense. So we can, this one here, so we would delete that. So to Mike's comments, we took a couple of them, but certainly the drink thing, we feel that, we want to leave that in there. And then, like I say, we struck, so it does read, continue to explore opportunities for food carts, farmers markets, and local food, drink opportunities. And struck the food, drink gardens and the other.
Okay. And to your mind, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, I did remember that I wanted to share my thoughts about the food service, like switching food and drink to food service too. I wouldn't think we'd want to preclude a beverage service on its own, even if it's only non-alcoholic beverages, because I guess I could see a situation where there would be drinks available, but not necessarily food. So I think it would be appropriate to leave the food and drink in there.
Thank you. Okay. So when we leave it saying, I'm sorry, but I just have a feeling I'm going to be answering questions later. When we say food and drink, it may or may not mean alcohol. Okay, we're leaving it very broadly defined. Okay. All right. So there's other things to go through now page by page, but I think now we've covered what the citizen comments were. Correct? So we're going to go ahead, Sarah.
Sorry, I just had one other thing on the citizen comment. I do agree with Brad's comments as to how the Greenway and the Safeway program being potentially in other areas making more sense. I just wanted to call it, though, for the Greenway conversation, when I look back at those resolutions, it was only approved as a pilot. And so I do think that would be I would anticipate that there's going to be more conversations and that parks would be involved in those conversations. Am I understanding that, Scott? Okay. Then
Thank you for looking that up. And now that you say that, now remember, it was a discussion of a pilot plan.
It was, and there was feedback at that time. So that's the only reason why I'm actually glad, and I had looked that it wasn't included, just because there were conversations that occurred as a result of that pilot resolution. So it makes sense to me.
Yep. Very good. Okay. So now we could just go page by page through the red line to see if anyone has questions or whatever it is either Brad or Scott want to tell us.
Well, like I say, I think Brad did a good job of summarizing all the changes that were made initially, and then some additional changes that were made per the Plan Commission. So, short of going through it page by page, I think we've done a good job of interjecting the comments, and certainly open it up if there's anything that you saw. A part that I really liked was the way that we kind of prioritized. That was one of the questions that the mayor at the Plan Commission wanted to make this a little bit more, read a little bit easier. So what we did do is Brad came up with a system to highlight those priorities in the document by a color. And then actually the mayor indicated a funding source that she wanted to include in there, which we did include, whether it be CIP or of one of the immediate, one of the, let me see if I can get to it. Remind me of the
priority
color.
One.
Yeah, remind me of the colors again, Brad. So
the green is priority 1, yellow priority 2, orange priority 3, and then the blues are like the ongoing actions or policies.
And then when there was a green, that's immediate. What we did is we or maybe it's farther down.
Scroll the other way, Scott.
So it's a little bit further here.
Yep.
So when it was a green, which was an immediate one, like develop a city park classification standard, we provided include funds in the CIP. So there was an indication of where include funds in the CIP, a dollar indication of where the dollars would come from in order to do that priority one action. But just color coding these is really, from my perspective, as a director, I can look and say, hey, this is a priority one. You know, let's begin to start to work on those to give a little bit of direction in order to the implementation. And see here, develop city urban forestry strategic management plan. Anna was successful in receiving a grant, so grant assistant internal staff project. So it really, explore developments of an arboretum tree growing incubator. We actually have it in the CIP for a gravel bed, and so CIP funded. So it indicates, and that this is really from my perspective, this is what helps guide me and staff and what and even the park commission too, what our priorities are. And certainly just the inventory and the update of all the different amenities, that's always a good thing. And then I'll share a little bit later on tonight with Sam's request, because I'm doing a comprehensive inventory of the park system, so I'll share a little bit of specific information about that. But that's, I guess, what I wanted to share.
Okay. I just have a couple other little things I saw or have a question about. And I wrote down page numbers, which now don't correlate anymore because the Mr. Stevens thing got added in the packet. But I think for most of them, I also have the page number of the plan. So page 7 of the plan, which now looks like it's page 25 of the packet, is goal 4 is comprehensive trail, and the word tree canopy is there. And I'm wondering if people would think it's appropriate to write the word quality tree canopy. It's on page 25. Goal 4, sort of in the middle of the page.
I'm not very
and
good with this.
And while you're scrolling, I'll explain why quality tree canopy is something I hope we can change it to. Anna was working with the DNR a couple years ago and got imaging of tree canopy over Fitchburg. And there is no way to differentiate how much of that tree canopy is buckthorn and how much is oak trees. You can a little bit, but our goal should be to convert to quality tree canopy where it's poor quality. So if there are no objections, that's a suggestion I have.
Am I close here, you guys? I'm not close? Bummer.
Yeah, you want to get to...
Upper right-hand corner, look for 7. You're on 21 right now. So you got to go up further.
No, okay. It's 7 of the plan.
Yep.
Brad, what do you think of that while he's scrolling?
There we go.
I wouldn't have, that seems reasonable to me. I think inserting the word quality into that goal is reasonable.
Okay.
So, goal 4, look at that.
And it says
quality tree canopy?
Yeah, if we could, it might help us someday.
It's a good call out. It's a goal.
Yeah. And then now, I should have started backwards on my list, because now it's page 44 of the plan.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Sorry.
So it's down?
Now you got to go down. Now we started at where I started, and we're going to go down. Sorry.
Well, at least it's not... Thanks, Chris.
All right,
You said that awful kindly, and just say, hey, dumbass. Grab the thing and scroll down.
No, it's the phrase is, hey, boomer, right?
It's what?
Boomer. I get that one for all my technological deficiencies.
Well, just be thankful we're not in the Genie Sea League when it froze up.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is on page 44 and is very simple. It's describing Wildwood South Prairie Park, and it talks about a pond, a waterway on the northern end. It's on the southern end. So just where it says southern, change it to northern.
Oh,
All right, where it
mercy.
says northern, rather, change it to southern. And
Where is that now?
that's on page 44, where it's talking about the amenities at Wildwood South Prairie Park. It's above that. It's above that picture.
Wildwood South neighborhood.
Stormwater, where it says northern end, second last line. Way down, one more line.
Northern end.
Northern end, that's got to be southern end.
Oh, mercy.
I know, because what will happen when people realize that we were wrong?
Number 44.
Yeah.
Page 44. Southern end.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yep. And page 50 was.
Page 50?
Yep. That's Wildwood Kettle description. This is a vanity statement on my part because it's just described as stormwater. And
So page 50.
50, if we could add that the area has since 2019 had restoration work to include planting and reseeding with native species.
Which one is that?
That's Wildwood Kettle. The neighbor volunteers there
Wildwood
have done a
Kettle.
lot of that. Yeah. It would be adding a sentence saying.
And you know what, Sue, if you'd be kind enough.
I will do that.
Just send that to me.
I
Can I ask a question? So
Yep.
I don't think, from a consistency standpoint, I don't think we do that for any of the other areas where work has been done, correct? So
But,
just,
right, but it's just, the parks describe what's there. And we don't, I guess, if that's a good enough argument to not do it.
I'm only saying just because when I look at other parks, I do know that there's been some restoration work within Dunn's Marsh, right? Or even like McGaw, and I don't think those call out restoration work that's been done.
Right. That's fine. Those areas have, though, recognized natural areas, and this is a natural area that really wasn't a natural area.
True.
But now it is. It's a change in its condition, and if it's not included, I won't cry. So I'll send it to Scott, and he and Brad can
Can
make the
decide.
That makes
decision
sense.
later.
Perfect.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
All right. On pages, okay, now I wrote page 67 and 68, but it was the list, and I don't know if that was the plan pages. It lists the incomplete projects of Crescent Crossing Park and the dog playground at Crescent
Yeah, no,
Crossing.
you're right.
And those are complete now.
Those are complete, yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's a good one.
All right.
Yep,
And then
I did notice that one too, yeah.
there's a reference somewhere about 3 orchards that was added. And does that include Southdale, or is that a 4th orchard? Because there's a line of orchard trees.
No, that would be,
Fourth.
that would be another one.
That's the 4th
That
one.
would be another, yep.
It's on the south edge of the community garden, of
Yep.
the whole length.
If you include that in your.
It will be
your
there.
Email to me.
I wondered about giving ourselves some leeway on page 76. There was an addition about when we install new play equipment, it should be inclusive. That's extremely.
They are all, well, you know, they're accessible, and all the play structures themselves are inclusive.
Well,
It's
yeah.
the you know, and wood chips are classified as.
Yeah. But was that something that the mayor wanted added? Because I think she was talking about
Yeah.
like playground
Well,
stuff that's much more expensive, and it'd be great if we had the money for it. But if we use the words that a playground, an effort would be made to have inclusive elements, because this otherwise is directing us that every time we put in a new playground, it's going to cost
Twice as much.
much more
Well,
than
it's
anything.
basically for the surfacing is what's
Yeah.
is poured in place in comparison to wood chips. Did you have something, Brad?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that that was mayor's request at the plan commission meeting. And if the Parks Commission consensus is that you'd prefer not to have that in, then you can include that in the recommendations that goes to council. So.
All right.
I just think it's a very vague word. I mean, I'm not opposed to making sure that everything is inclusive where we're able to do that, but I guess just kind of piggybacking off of what Susan said, the word is just very vague, and I'm not sure what that ties us down to, you know, in terms of upgrading other parks or anything like that.
Yeah. Well,
and not to interrupt you, but, you know, inclusive and accessible, you know, all the new playgrounds that we install are inclusive and accessible. You know, it port in place is a surfacing that makes the, you know,
well, it's a safety factor for the port in place. But, you know, for example, when it comes time for any neighborhood park to be redone,
right.
This here says it's going to be inclusive. And that means port in place, that means the type of equipment that's in the new inclusive playground.
Right,
and it's very, so
you're right, Sue. You're
I mean,
right.
that's a great goal, but if we just said there'd be a goal of in having some inclusive elements, we're not
and I think
hamstrung by.
We had it originally, you know, consider installing inclusive and accessible playgrounds, anytime equipment. So that says, hey, you know, consider installing it.
Yeah.
Instead of making that it's gotta be.
Yeah. Okay.
So that'd be.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
I do
verbiage.
too. I do too. Yeah. That's a good catch. So it's on your list.
It is.
And then what we'll do, Park Commission, is we'll go, all as Sue indicated.
Okay.
Cool.
And I have questions about page 95.
95.
And I didn't write a decent note to myself. I know what I wrote down, but I got to see how it reads. What I wrote was for 10F.
10F?
10F says, I wrote down turf to native, prairie, savanna, woodland. What does it say there?
Evaluate opportunities to convert underutilized turf grass spaces in existing parks to native landscapes.
Okay.
And
that's included in all that, so that just never mind.
that's
yeah.
something we could take a look at.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you want to specify. There's different native landscapes or not. It can go without saying, but there's prairie, savanna, woodland, blah, blah. Okay, 10G, the remark about solar infrastructure, we're talking about solar infrastructure to service the buildings that are on the parkland, correct? We're not talking about putting up solar panels to go into the feed to power the library.
No, this would only be if it, well, for example, Tower Hill. We looked at Tower Hill and it wouldn't.
Okay, so it's just to potentially serve the buildings within the park.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Not provide money or provide electricity for the grid. No, it's just to be a more cost-effective way to provide electricity to the specific facility.
All right, I've got it.
And I'll add too that action item really doesn't specify whether it be, I guess a system tied to the grid to, power city facilities, or if it's just, powering park buildings. But what the main point of that action was to make sure that tree canopy and solar infrastructure are planned together so that we don't install solar somewhere that will eventually get shaded out by full-grown trees, and we don't plant trees in an area that might get solar infrastructure in the future that would then require them to be taken down. So that's the intent of that action.
Okay. Thank you. Then I had page 96 of the plan. And I don't think I understand my own note, so we're going to skip it. I don't know. I wrote down. Well, I wrote down for page 111, and then in parentheses, I wrote 96. So I think it was page 96 of the plan. But I'm looking at it, and I wrote 11B, but there's no 11B here.
Yeah, we struck it, yeah. Oh, 11D, you said.
11B is in boy.
Boy.
And I don't know, I didn't write good enough notes.
Work with the Public Works Department to inventory park properties that have areas that also serve stormwater management functions.
Okay.
That are not currently part of the stormwater management property inventory.
Okay. That.
And if you might have been wondering why we struck out the development of the Nine Springs Creek Water Trail, in looking into it, it looks like it had already been done.
Okay. Thank you for telling me that, but now I remember, now I know what my question was, that way back at the beginning of this, I'd asked about a list of all the parks older parks that have stormwater facilities in, and I think that's interwoven into here, because that was back when Wade was working on it, and he said he would do it. But and Alder Herbst will have comments about this, I'm sure, because those are not listed as part of the responsibilities of the stormwater district. And I wanted the list of what's in the parks, so if something needs to be, there needs to be remedial work, that it's funded by the stormwater district fees. And right now, people who live, for example, around Wildwood South, all their stormwater goes into Wildwood Kettle and Wildwood South Park. They're not listed in the stormwater district list of facilities, but if work ever needs to be done in them, where will the money come from to do the work? The park budget or what?
I'm still perplexed by that, how we ever would have. Was this just I wonder if this was just a miss when we formed our stormwater utility? That we, the ones that were in the parks?
Yeah, they're not there.
I'm
Well,
I'm
in Seminole
perplexed.
Glen, Seminole Glen is another example of it.
They're not. The stormwater utility collects money for maintaining our stormwater infrastructure.
Right.
Just because the pond is in the park doesn't mean it's,
Right.
So I'll have to talk to the stormwater engineer on this.
Yeah, because I only know about it to that level enough to ask the question because we had questions in the neighborhood about Wildwood Kettle holding water for so long that the mosquitoes got really bad. But back when Claudia Guy worked here, the only answer I could get is it's not my department. It's not on the list. I can't help you. So
I'm sending an email to Tim Volker right now. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you for entertaining the question.
It is in the plan there, so.
Right, it's listed that it's there, but if something needs to be worked on,
Yeah, work with
that's not funded through the stormwater district
work
tax.
with the Public Works Department to inventory park properties. So.
Well, inventorying it is one thing. Having it be paid for, the remediation work paid for out of the stormwater district is the reason you're asking the question. And then finally, on page 9, I think it would be 97 of the plan, 14A, I wrote, is the Greenfield neighborhood plan, because this is regarding, now I'm losing track of the name of and I like it so much. The Moraine Edge Park and Preserve System. The two neighborhoods that it would connect are on opposite sides of the city that are being planned now. The South Stoner Prairie neighborhood on the west side, and on the east side, the Greenfield neighborhood. So are those, and Brad might know this, are those two neighborhoods, as they're being planned right now, reflecting the fact that there is something called Moraine Edge Park and Preserve to be up front and center as they do their planning?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's been a consideration. And particularly with Greenfield, the Moraine Edge Park, as it's shown in the proposal, doesn't quite reach to South Stoner Prairie, but we have been noting throughout the process that connectivity to regional trails and corridors is important. And getting over to Seminole Highway and the Badger State Trail would get closer over to where the Marine Edge Park comes in. But with Greenfield specifically, the language in the CIP was edited, I think, for, was it the 24 to 28 plan? I don't remember which one it was in, but the Marine Edge Park language in the CIP was edited a bit, primarily to make it more feasible in implementation. And so that's kind of the way we've been looking at it in the Greenfield plan, is preserving a corridor that can connect green spaces and park properties. So it the swath of preserved open space doesn't look as wide as what's shown in the Marine Edge Park in that proposal, but we're basically trying to use that corridor to maintain a corridor of connections and then have park space and open space within that swath to highlight the natural features throughout the Marine Edge corridor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I noticed that was changed, and while it'd be great to have a beautiful large park as it's shown there, I don't think it's realistic. So keeping a corridor concept in mind is nice to have.
Why do you have that up there? So the pink would be the...
Yes.
So that would connect to Southdale. The mayor has a proposal in the CIP for a expensive boardwalk connecting Southdale. Is that part of this, Brad?
Southdale? Or
Yeah.
South Stone or Prairie?
No, Southdale to the, so it could get over to, the Sain neighborhood, an expensive boardwalk, and that's not, I don't know, Brad,
No,
I don't
that's
see
not
that
part
on
yeah,
here.
this
Do you?
is east-west.
You don't see that either? Okay.
No.
All right.
It's not in this area.
Not on here.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to modify my motion, because I said we should agree on all the listings. So I'd have to state all those over again, and I don't think anyone wants to sit through that. We worked through the objections that people had, so I'll just be very honest and send those to Scott, and I'll send them to all of you. If you see that I made a mistake, you can let Scott know. Okay?
Very good.
All right. Any other comments about this? All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my questions.
That's good discussion, yeah.
And so, those in favor of the motion, I am rescinding the portion of the motion that stated that we would be specifically listing every update decided today. So it's a straight motion for, I will reread then. It's just, go ahead.
Sue, can I maybe ask a question quick? Or is if this goes to council next week, then I think it's next week for the final adoption. I don't think we'll be making, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we'll be making these changes before it goes to council, because I believe they have to vote on the same version that was at the public hearing today. So I think it probably would be good to have this list of Parks Commission recommended changes in the referral sheet.
Right.
Yes.
When it goes to council.
Correct.
Well, I'll put that when I update the referral sheet, it'll be approved as with modifications or adjustments requested by the Park Commission below, and then I'll list them on the referral sheet.
Okay.
So they can decide to take any of them or all of them or none of them.
Well, and tomorrow, would that all have to be done by tomorrow because they post tomorrow, or? I'll do it
get
tomorrow
that
morning.
to me soon.
I'll do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the motion then is just modified to say the motion is to approve resolution R-208-24, approval of parks, open space, and recreation plan 2025 to 2030. So that's my motion. Who is the second? Do they agree to the change? No objection to the change? I think it was Heidi. You're okay with me removing that? Okay, Heidi's saying yes here.
And
Okay.
then I'll include the other comments that we made with Mike and the Greenway system.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So those in favor then, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes.
Are you working tomorrow, Brad?
Yep.
Cool. I'll be in touch. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Now,
Thanks,
Brad, you're
Brad.
done? Are you done for the day, Brad? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Sure, thank you.
Likewise. Yeah.
All right, so we are now on then item 6, Southdale Master Plan. We'll do a motion in a second. Do you want that, Scott?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
A motion to approve the Southdale Park Master Plan. Anyone have that?
So moved.
Sarah Schroeder, a second?
I'll second.
Chris.
Well, let's give that one to Sam. He hasn't had one yet today.
Who's that, Sam?
Sam
Okay,
DiMaggio.
Okay.
Okay. So, go ahead, Scott.
What I did is, in working with Rob, and Rob wasn't able to make it from EOR. He had a procedure done, so he wasn't able to be here. But what he was able to do is to take the comments that we had received from the Park Commission and kind of put together our first draft of the master plan. And Brad, our Rob is going to continue to help us. If there's some amendments or adjustments to the master plan, he can make those for us. But once we come up with an approved master plan from the Park Commission, then what we'll do is we'll commission, hopefully commission Rob to take us to the next step and get details and bid documents and all of those kinds of things. So at this point, what we're doing is we're really working with the Park Commission to come up with the final master plan, if you would. And then the next step after we get that is to come up with all the details, what the playground would look like, what the shelter would look like, and all of those kinds of things. So I'm ready. And what I did do is I did include in the staff comments, all the kind of a bullet listing of all the things that we heard, and we're thinking that we included all of those in this draft plan. One thing that Sue did mention to me, and if you want me to, Sue, in regards to the existing shelter, evaluate existing grill and the ash urn for replacements. There actually isn't a grill there similar to the grill that's located over by the community gardens. It was just someone probably brings in their Coleman or whatever it might be. But certainly I think the idea of having, kind of a county park kind of grill in that area would be a good idea, because like I say, we see residents who bring grills and things over there, so they certainly are grilling by the shelter.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. And, you look around, it's all apartments. For many people, especially living on the second floor, this is where they would go to have a grill. They're not, this is their yard. It's not just, it serves as so much more here than some of the little area parks and neighborhood parks do elsewhere. So I think that'd be nice if we could add it. You ready for questions?
Yep, or comments? Yep.
Okay.
Any
questions, comments? Okay.
Any
I don't have quite as long a list. There's 4 items.
4. Fire
And
away.
I think we just talked about one of them. Okay. Just to make sure that park path that leaves the park going north goes all the way out to Badger Road. Now, I know you don't necessarily want to create a new master plan, but maybe a notation on the master plan that whatever vegetation management and lighting changes occur go all the way out to Badger Road.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm not sure that's our property, though. Just
It is.
Actually, there's a corridor that goes. Yep, all the way. Yep, it's small. but it's got a path in there. There's not much, we can maybe do some trees or something along there, but yeah. It goes.
Yeah, there's somebody at some point planted one nice oak tree and the rest is garbage. But, and there's 3, like city lights over that section of the path. So it's there. Whether it could be brighter or whatever, that's something to think about later.
Well, and future path lighting improvements, I think we've got that.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so just again, we brought it up for the open space plan, but south of the community gardens, that whole strip of trees that's shown there, almost all of those are orchard trees.
So we'll identify that, yep.
Just identify it. And a question then about west of the garden. Last time it said fire pit. Now it does not.
Nope. And I did, I believe I shipped to you the communication I received from the fire department.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you did, I missed it. I'm sorry. Okay.
Boy, I thought I did. But what they basically said is they're okay as long as it's not propane or gas or
for the grill.
For the grill.
Yeah.
But
like
yeah, they weren't interested in a fire pit either.
Yeah. I mean, I know historically have their own and they've been using it responsibly, but you know, other people come and go, then we have a big problem.
Didn't include that, right?
Okay. And then for the existing shelter, I just was pointing out, I was mistaken last time around. It doesn't have a grill. And that's it. Those are my questions. Does anyone else have questions, comments? David? Herbst?
We talked about this last time, Sue, but you know, the feasibility of the community gardens there, the trees on the north side, it's shading it. It's becoming too shady to be a good garden site.
Yeah.
And I think we want to have a garden there. I think we have to take those larger trees out or find a way to trim them. If you can't get full sun in there, you don't get much of a garden.
Right.
And we can include that as part of our vegetation management area and plan in that area.
Yeah, it goes right by it.
I think our landscape architect can tell us that there are probably tools to explain or to extrapolate how much sunlight an area gets. I'm not saying you can do it looking at what you're looking at, but if some of the trees in there may be easily removed without having disturbed the ecosystem, or maybe it does get. I know for native plants and other gardening, sometimes 6 to 8 hours a day can be considered full sun, but I don't know how well that translates into vegetable gardening.
Yeah.
So it's just that we need to know. I think before we would stick more money into the community gardens, we would want to make sure we know if it's got enough sun to support it.
Yeah. The other thing, Sue, I would add, the fruit trees, and I don't want the city to get in the middle of this, but those have to be pruned, for a fruit tree too.
Yep.
And they're kind of in a state of disrepair. They're not producing that much fruit. They haven't been pruned, but I don't want to. Same time, I don't want to ask Scott's, the department to be responsible for pruning these fruit trees. I'm just raising the issue. There's not much we can. Someone locally, the residents are going to have to take that charge.
I know. I agree. They're neglected, but I don't. Maybe some of the other ones are in the system too. I don't know if they're being managed at all. Yeah. So, the whole idea of fruit trees sounds nice, but it's the devil's in the details. If nobody eats it, then you've just got wasps on the ground and all that other business.
And I think just the point to identify that
they're there.
Just right.
When I went there when they had a tree planting event, Anna Healy looked at them with me, and she said they're salvageable, and she's not saying she can't do it, but sheer time is limited too. So, yeah, it's a very good point.
And certainly identify them.
Yeah,
identify them.
We'll say they're there. All right. Anybody have other question or comment? All right.
Very good.
Those in favor of this plan with the additional notes from our discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
No one's
Excellent,
opposed, so we are
Moving
approved
forward,
Southdale.
yes.
Sue, can I ask a question on this? What would be the time frame? Because the mayor is, she wanted this done yesterday, and
Yep,
and
yep.
like,
And-
no,
well,
we bid these for the following
And-
year. Am I correct,
and
Scott?
Like I say, what I'll do is I'll get a proposal from Rob to put together the details and the bid documents and all of that. We'll probably have to come back to the Park Commission at some point just to finalize the details. So we'll work as quickly as we can, Dave.
Is the end fall next year?
Well,
Is that possible?
Oh, I think it's well. What do? You underpromise and overdeliver. So
Yeah.
let's look for it in 2026.
Yeah. Starting in late 2025 to be continued in 2026.
Yeah.
I think
The longer you give them to bid it, the better price you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think some of the, there's, playgrounds and those kinds of things. I think we can definitely see some progress next year.
We could get volunteer groups to start working on the brush removal and the invasive stuff up in the woodlot too.
Yeah.
Well, she's anxious. She's anxious every meeting. She asks me when it's going to be ready.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. We've taken care of step one. We voted.
Well, yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Yeah. Okay, so then 6, we're at discussion. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We're not. We've finished 6. You're going to give us 6B, the park project updates.
Yep, and I'm gonna, and this was requested by Sam, so I'm gonna share my screen. And this is my comprehensive inventory, amenities, and here, let me go from the beginning. What I did is basically, McKee Farms Park, and here's the comprehensive list of potential amenities. And then I've identified specifically how many of each of those amenities are at that park. So I did that for all. We ended up going through, what do I got here? I've got 57 total park spaces that have these kinds of amenities. And then what I did is I totaled, playgrounds, swing bays, open air shelters. At the end of the day, what I want to get to is, for example, 44 playgrounds, and they last 25 years, right? So you're going to have to replace 2, in theory, replace 2 every year in order to replace them every 25 years. So then you have $100,000 just in playgrounds every year. So what this is going to do, it certainly provides that scope, I think, for the council and everybody as far as and this doesn't include, woodlots and paths and undeveloped properties and all of those kinds of things. These are kind of our active park spaces that we have right now. And at the end of the day, then, we're going to be able to provide a dollar amount that's going to be needed annually in order to, we'll come up with total cost, year built, and then I suspect life expectancy and all of those kinds of, all of that kind of information. So this is kind of the format that I'm using to gather all of that individual amenities in each of the parks.
And so this is it's hardware amenities. It's playgrounds, tennis courts.
Well, it's playgrounds, 44, swing bays,
Right.
77.
But if I were to go to a park and see that there should be we could make a sledding hill here, that's not something that's on this list.
No.
Because it's not a purchase.
It's not a physical amenity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's, all right, it's not the landscape itself. It's
Yeah.
So is there space in there to evaluate those amenities, I guess, as you go through to make decisions about which
Well,
ones you're going to fund
and I
and which
think
ones you're not?
it's kind of going to be how old they are, Sam.
Okay.
Kind of when they were installed, and then the life expectancy. So I think from that is really the only objective way to kind of determine their condition.
Or go look at them.
Yeah.
What's that?
Or go look at them.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Right.
I imagine,
Right.
just a guess, but some of the oldest have poorer quality materials, and it's a mix. But like the original plastics used, like for example at Hillside Heights, that really took on a lot of mold, where I think newer plastics have mold retardants in and color enhancers that they may last longer than some of the others. So, I hope we'll also take a look and not just say, it's time to go.
Right.
It would probably be a good idea to kind of use the same color scheme as you did on your open space plan. You could do green for a high priority and yellow for your secondary and blue for your tertiary and then go on from there. That way you can identify priorities for yourself, right. And then we can review those priorities by just glancing at the document to get some idea of what things should be funded in a CIP plan.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Well,
use the same color scheme.
And right now you have had an ongoing budget to replace 2 a year anyway, correct?
we have, and actually what we've done with those dollars is we've, in theory, you go, okay, what playground was installed in 1999? So in 25 years, it should be 2024. But because the dollars were limited, we went out to Sam's point and actually looked at them and kind of determined, okay, this has got to go and those kind of, but I'm just thinking budget-wise, to put the dollar amount in the budget, and then we as staff go out and say, okay, which ones do we need which need it the most?
The most.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, ones where you can identify where there's safety issues as well, obviously, by doing because sometimes you go to a park and you look at them like, holy cow, somebody jumps on this swing and they're going to get hurt, or there's a tree that's leaning that you probably need to take care of, et cetera. Those somehow should be identified.
The safety standards change.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of the reason with the 25-year life expectancy. But you've got 721 parking stalls in the park system. Did you know that? 2 barn swallow houses. 44 B-cycle stalls within the park system. 33 total stalls and bike racks. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Show this to the mayor when you ask for more staff.
Well, and again, this is tell me why. So this is kind of the objective.
Yeah.
Information. So that's kind of what.
Good step. Good first step.
What I'm working on. Good with that?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
How do I stop sharing?
You're oversharing.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's good.
I didn't do it though.
Okay, so we are now on to
Then you cannot move. You got to stay right there.
7, agenda area 7, communications, and Scott, just keep talking. Go with communications all the way through the end.
Just kind of and I'll keep coming every month with this, and I will tell you that for McKee, shelter siding and the pickleball, we're looking to get that bid December this month. So the Tower Hill thing is coming in a little bit more than what we've got dollars for, so we may end up having to come back and try to get some additional dollars before we bid it. So those are moving along. Chicory Meadow, we're looking to sole source it with the same person that did the pickleball courts the tennis courts at McKee. So we've got that in the queue, ready to go right away in January. So again, it's just kind of a comprehensive list of the parks that we've got in the queue. The resolution 19024, which amended the park budget, For the community center LTE attendance, that was passed by council. Thanks to Dave for bringing that forward for us. Resolution 19324, the Kyle Steigert project, but what the council did too, which was great, is they approved the name of the park and along with approving the concept plan. So those are all ready to rock and roll. So now we're working on how we're going to get it done. So that was good with Dave's leadership from the Park Commission at taking it to bat at the council for us. So that's appreciated. And then basically the rec reports. CC position, CC, I told you she went to Mount Horeb, so we've got that position posted. We're looking at interviewing candidates in January. Chad's got all his vacation he needs to use up, so I'm in the rec department from here until the first of the year, so that's where I'll be. And then next two meetings, January 2nd and February 6th.
Okay.
And that.
I have one question.
Sure.
Scott, regarding our earlier discussion on the citizen questions, comments from Mr. Stevens, are you and Brad planning to reply to his email so he knows exactly what was determined here?
I can.
I think that would be really helpful.
Sure. Well, the Park Commission, we looked at it and discussed it.
And this will happen, this part will happen, this part won't happen. And
I'll do that.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, so motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We'll give the motion to Sarah and the second to Heidi. And those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. We are adjourned at 7:35 p.m.
Thank you so much for your comments, you guys.